Welcome back to another video. This time, I've been thinking about this for quite some time on how feasible it is to purchase a BIM software as an individual or a small architectural firm. Nowadays, the option of purchase is being slowly eroded and most companies are shifting towards the subscription-based model. I remember when Autodesk gave the option of an outright purchase, even then the prices were quite high. I always found it fascinating how Autodesk was able to give out their software for free to students, which as a student then, I did not complain. Over the years, I've tried out a few BIM softwares, some more than others, and in this video, I plan to summarize my experiences with them as best as I can, starting with the elephant in the room, Revit. This is probably the most feature-rich software, having the benefit of additional integration with other Autodesk products. But the major problem I find with Revit is the pricing. Currently, Autodesk, as I've said earlier, has switched to a subscription-based model, and at the time of recording, goes for $2,675 a year. For a company, that's not much, but for an individual, let's say someone like me, it is very high. To my understanding, after your subscription expires, the program will still be usable, but all cloud services are locked, such as analysis and structural simulation. As for my history with Revit, it is by far the one I've used the most and have gotten really comfortable with. The second gripe I have with Revit is its inflexibility. What I mean by that is every object is tied down by multiple constraints. For example, if you have a floor slab, it is tied to the level that you've created already, and then you have to offset it from that particular level. These constraints are good at the later stages of the design where things are fixed, but during the earlier stages when you're feeling things out, it is very restrictive. There is a reason why Revit is still the market leader, and that includes the suite of features it has accumulated over the years. The second one on the list is not exactly a BIM software, but a plugin that enables BIM functionality, and that's Visual ARQ for Rhino. Building upon this solid software that is Rhino, which provides so much flexibility and versatility from precise knobs modeling to freeform sub-D modeling and the option to transition between both. In this software, if you want to get your Zaha on, it makes it really easy for you, and it's mostly stable with very rare instance of having the software crash. Standing upon this is Visual ARQ, which adds BIM functionality to all the existing Rhino functionality that you have. This is good and excellent, but if you're like me, who comes from a Revit background, you start noticing the absence of a few quality of life tools that help shave off a few seconds from your design process every time you use them. A good example is the active dimensions. When you are trying to place a wall or an object, Revit provides a dimension relative to other objects around what you are trying to currently place, which helps you make precise placements of your object. And later on, if you select the object, you can still click on these dimensions to edit the location of your object precisely. Compared to the juggernaut that is the Autodesk company, I genuinely think Sony, the company that made Visual ARQ, has achieved quite a significant feat in terms of BIM functionality that they've been able to add to the Rhino software. Another excellent feature that Visual ARQ has is its integration with Grasshopper. Initially, Grasshopper was a plugin in Rhino, and now it comes with Rhino 7. If I'm not mistaken, it comes with 6 too. But this integration makes it extremely flexible. If you're familiar with the Grasshopper interface, I personally have just barely scratched the surface of what Grasshopper can do, and I'm still trying to wrap my head around the whole parametric architecture and design thing. The next on the list is Vectorworks. I've only used this for a brief period of time, but within this, I've noticed a few things. It has really excellent 2D and architectural tools, but then whenever it comes to MEP, I find it severely lacking. For example, while trying to add a distribution panel, I had to create the object, label it as a distribution panel, and then place it in my model. This was done in the 2021 version of Vectorworks. I don't know if in the later ones they've been able to solve that problem, but there is a significant lack of components for MEP within Vectorworks, and also the visual representation of MEP elements within Vector is a bit lacking, but then hopefully it's something I know they are able to fix. And one more thing about Vectorworks is the navigation. Whenever I click to rotate my model within Vectorworks, there's small, almost half-second lag that just keeps getting on my nerve. Whenever you click to rotate an object, even the interface that's within the viewport changes to the rotate. But while I have, I think, Control or Shift and the middle mouse held down to rotate my model, I don't think I have any other appendage to click on another object in Vectorworks. It is quite jarring, but something that happens in Vectorworks, and it's something that I've noticed, and it kept getting on my nerves. The 3D modeling within Vectorworks is quite similar to SketchUp, but then after diving into the program files, I noticed, yeah, it uses the SketchUp API, so the similarities are uncanny. But then in addition to that, it has so much more bolted onto it, which is completely different from the simplicity, I'd say, of SketchUp, where you have the freedom to create. Vectorworks gives you that, and then BIM functionality and all that on top of it, which personally I think it makes it a bit heavy in terms of operation. Something close to what Revit is currently, where you have so much tacked onto it and then it bogs down the entire system. This might be a personal thing, but yeah, that's what I feel about Vectorworks. That's my experience with Vectorworks. Next on the list is BricsCad. Starting with the good, it's so far the only BIM software I know that's on Linux, and it has really amazing 2D capabilities comparable to AutoCAD in terms of functionality. Its 3D capabilities are good to okay. The killer function I'd say within BricsCad is the propagate functionality, where you replicate a detailed intersection that you have to every other intersection of the same two model, which I find that really amazing. The downsides to it would be its ability of switching between vertex, edge, and face. I haven't seen any shortcut for that, which going to click between these options is time consuming, and then it's still lacking in 3D capabilities. Editing, navigating, it's a bit of a chore within BricsCad, but the pricing scheme, the company ethos, and all that seems very positive. I'm really looking forward to what they can do in the future in terms of improvements. My advice would be just look at what Revit is doing, creatively borrow some of these quality of life functionalities that they have and implement it to your software. And the final thing about BricsCad is the ad, which is amazing. Like the guy who brought BricsCad found that really funny and entertaining, and that's a plus. Finally on the list, it is so far the most complete BIM software, I'd say, compared to Revit, and it is the biggest competitor I think Revit has. It has all the features you need and all the functionality required of a BIM software, and the flexibility. It's a bit different coming from a Revit background, but then you easily wrap your head around the interface and the functionality. It is quite straightforward in terms of what it does and what the layout and placement is. The MEP is also quite robust. As I was looking at the history of Archicad, I saw the MEP was a separate plugin, but then was integrated into the software completely. Moving forward, it is part of the Archicad software. You don't need to buy it separately like it was in the past. The only thing I would say is it does not have a structural analysis aspect or functionality that I know of within the software. You can create a structural model and send it off to a structural analysis software for analysis and then import it back into Archicad. There isn't much of a criticism that I have for Archicad. So far so good. Everything is clear-cut, well placed. I tried the MEP, reasonable, easy to understand. Placement is easy and visual feedback is very, very good. It has really good 3D and 2D functionality, and the visuals of it is really good, comparable to that of Revit. One of the few gripes I have with Archicad is one, in terms of the pricing. If you decide as a small business or an individual that you want to buy Archicad, you would have to contact them and they would give you a quote, which I don't know, it feels strange that you have to have this back and forth instead of just a price on the website. Click add to cart and you have your software. But who knows, maybe that works well for them. I think there's a way to make this subscription model work for the BIM software. What I'm suggesting is to have it in tiers. The tier with the subscription would be solely for large companies, in which they would have perks like access to a technician of the BIM software and other things that the company would deem useful or marketable towards those larger companies. While the one-time purchase can still be available for medium to small companies, so that they can buy a particular model or particular version of the software. Once you reach a milestone, let's say you reach a version 3 of the software, for example, and you have much more new features that you've introduced, that is when you can charge a small upgrade fee. Nothing exorbitant, but an upgrade fee nonetheless. And while people can still maintain using their older version, the only drawback to that would be they wouldn't have access to the new features, which would, in a lot of cases, incentivize them to upgrade while still having hot fixes and other updates available for them. Those are my thoughts on the BIM software and my experiences with them so far. Let me know if your experience varies from mine and anything that you would like to add to the conversation. If you like the video, don't forget to subscribe, like, and thanks for watching.